look at me, a ghost. The worn and tattered remnants of an exciting and frivolous era. A city gutted, disemboweled, yet which refused to die. Once I was the proud capital of one of the wealthiest areas known to man. Nearly $750 million came from my sun and snow-drenched earth, a bonanza rivaling the wealth of Croesus. People lived and died here, some naturally, many of them violently. Gold and silver were gods here, gold and silver, and the urge to escape the facts of living, of life. Yet great were the rewards, great in man's concept of greatness, for riches awaited the man who struck pay dirt, riches beyond any dreamer's comprehension. This is the true history of America, recorded in an old and still operative newspaper, the Territorial Enterprise, Virginia City, Nevada. This is the history of a town that was born, burned brightly with enormous wealth, and died. Virginia City, Nevada, site of the famous Comstock Lode, the richest gold and silver strike in the world. If these walls could speak.
If these walls could speak, what stories they would tell.
Vincent Price here. Good to see you again. And tonight it is my pleasure once again to act as your host as we travel backward through time, back to the years 1850 through 1880, when the United States of America was enduring a most difficult time in its history. This man is one whom I am certain you will recognize. His name, Samuel Clemens, or he is perhaps better known as the delightful author, humorist, Mark Twain. Now, why do we introduce Mark Twain into this period of dark days for America? Well, we do so because Mr. Clemens, or if you wish, Mr. Twain, was an important part of this era, inasmuch as for a time he served as a reporter editor of an important Western newspaper, the Territorial Enterprise of Virginia City, Nevada. And as such, he was witness to and chronicler of the period with which this episode of our program deals. We are going to tell you a story which could only have happened in the United States of America at the period of history in which it happened. It is a story ribald, humorous, sad, but at the same time epoch-making. It is the story of Virginia City, Nevada, and the greatest fortune ever found by man. So I, with your permission, shall become the voice of the walls of the prospering newspaper, the Territorial Enterprise, and we shall learn the true story as it would be revealed if these walls could speak. The year is 1867, and here in the composing room of the Territorial Enterprise, the printed news is concerned entirely with the treasure, which for the past 3 years has been coming by the carload from the surrounding land. Gold and silver, silver and gold, the last remains of the Ophir mine. The first big strike in the area, from which over $15 million in precious metals poured in a veritable avalanche. The Ophir, discovered by 2 Irish lads, Peter O'Reilly and Pat McLaughlin, led the way toward a gigantic silver boom. However, these 2 gullible men were outfoxed, first by a sanctimonious fraud named Henry Comstock, who claimed that they had filed on his original title, whereupon the 2 Irishmen agreed to work the claim for him on a percentage basis. Comstock whose name became synonymous with the ore discovery, and in fact the entire find became known as the Comstock Lode, was a drinker and a fake, and had no real claim to the land. But little did the boys suspect it, and they fell into the plot without a suspicion. A fourth owner of the Ophir appeared on the scene, one James Finney, who was from Virginia, and no one within his hearing was allowed to forget it. Finney's claim had some legitimacy to it, and he was declared in. Legend has it that Finney, who was always referred to as Old Virginie, because of his everlasting boasting of his origin, passed from saloon to saloon one evening, and finally, in his drunken stupor, dropped his most cherished possession, his bottle.
Okay, we'll make this a christening. I hereby christen this damn camp Virginia.
And so it was that the fast-growing boom town was named Virginia City, or so the legend goes. The Ophir mine looked like this during its days of productivity, and although it bore its owners a huge profit, none of the original claimants prospered very greatly. O'Reilly died in a madhouse. McLaughlin sold his share for $20,000. Comstock sold out for $11,000 and committed suicide. And Old Virginie accepted a quart of whiskey and a blind horse as total payment for his share of the mine. Strange are the workings of fate. Other mines soon dotted the landscape in increasing numbers, each plucking the treasures hidden in the earth. This is the Union Mine, the Gould and Curry Mine, which earned $16 million for its owners, the Mexican Mine, and the Imperial Empire Mine, all big producers. The biggest bonanza, however, was struck here at the Con, Virginia Mine. Its principal owner, John Mackey, went on to found the Postal Telegraph Company with a small part of his profits, and in addition became a stockholder in railroads, transatlantic cables, sugar refineries, and copper mills. This is the Savage Mansion from whose balcony one day Ulysses S. Grant made a speech exactly 4 sentences long, which left the natives spellbound.
And you may be proud of the fact that the gold and silver from Virginia City largely financed the Union cause in the Great War.
For it is true that the precious ore from my mines did finance the Northern armies in their titanic struggle with the South. In fact, it had been a matter of deep intrigue and some violence as to which side would control the mines and their riches. This man, perhaps more than any other, carried the territory to the Union side. His name, Bill Stewart. This is a scale model of a stamp mill, such as was used in the mining at Virginia City. A stamp mill is an ore crusher, which by a series of processes eventually produces pure gold and silver. Actually, the engineering techniques used in mining here were the most advanced for that time in the entire world. Underground, entire networks of channels were dug, often crisscrossing and running into channels of other mines. It was said that a man could travel from Virginia City to the foot of Gold Hill, a distance of 5 miles entirely underground. Veins of gold and silver lined these dark passageways, millions in precious ore, all there for the picking, enough gold and silver to win a war and build a great city, San Francisco. For the beautiful city by the Golden Gate was a direct result and paid for by the treasures from the earth of Virginia City. This is the only railroad car ever built exclusively to carry gold and silver. It made frequent trips from here to the mint at Reno, and believe it or not, was never held up. even in a land frequented by murderers, assassins, bank robbers, and criminals of every type. For my town was a wide open town, 24 hours of each day. The miners cashed in their gold, drank, danced, and fought each other, here, and here, and here, and here. More than 100 saloons running wide open, more than 30,000 frenzied inhabitants living life to the full, riotously, and dying too, violently. At one period, it was recorded that there were 77 violent deaths before one natural death here in my city. Strange statistics born of a mad time in our nation's history. Slaughter and silver. Murder. More murders than one could count. Murder for gold, for silver, for lust and hatred, for the sheer thrill of killing. This was Virginia City, the richest ore strike in the history of civilized man. This was the hellhole of the West, yet a place where culture and even kindness thrived too. Let me tell you of some of my people who lived at that time. A rich Chinese, a millionaire laundress, an idolized prostitute, and many more, when we return in just a moment and the walls of the territorial enterprise again speak. Yes, from my walls here at the territorial enterprise, I watched the passing scene, the mad scramble of human beings possessed by a lust for riches, the ferocity, the abandon, the viciousness. I witnessed the birth of a city, a sparse population of 300 inhabitants, which almost overnight became 30,000. 30,000 money-mad opportunists, 30,000 corruptible souls. I saw fire sweep away half the city, as you can see by this map of the burned-out area. Yet in only 6 months it was all rebuilt, bigger, noisier, more rapacious than ever. This was Virginia City, the Virginia City I knew and hated and loved. This is the home built by the first 2 millionaires of the Comstock Lode, the first nabobs of the community whose joint claim resulted in an income of approximately $100,000 per month for several years.
Ailey Orham's the name, Scottish background, good stock. I come to Virginia City after leaving Salt Lake and 2 worthless Mormon husbands. Set up a boarding house I did and saved $1 or 2. Mostly did things for the miners, laundry, things like that. And then met and married my 3rd husband, Sandy Bowers. Best and smartest miner on the Comstock.
Yep. Me and Ailey hit it rich, we did. And by grannies, we knew how to spend it. We sure showed them European stuck-ups how real rich people should act. Man, we painted Europe red, white, and blue.
And indeed they did. For Ailey and Sandy made the grand tour with money to throw at the birds, and how they spent it. Dressmakers, jewelers, furniture dealers, collectors of art, and European hotels and bars all felt the welcome breath of the Bowers largesse. Several $100,000 worth of French mirrors, Italian statuary, bronzes, oil paintings, Turkish rugs, and Moroccan-bound volumes of the classics, though Sandy never did learn to read, made the long trip to the mansion here and were proudly displayed as proof that Ailey and Sandy had real class. But after Sandy's death, and with the fabulously productive mine at last depleted, Ailey Orham Bowers rented out the grounds to picnickers and even did a bit of fortune-telling on the side. She died in an old lady's home and is buried here on the hillside back of the house. These were Virginia City's first millionaires, but certainly not its last. From rags to riches to rags. Strange, this is the story of the city itself. My city boasted of many bars, ornate and gaudy places experienced in exchanging gold and silver for liquid refreshment. Bars such as this, the Crystal, or the Delta, where miners who suffered through 150 degrees of heat underground, through danger and back-breaking work, would gladly exchange the fruits of their labors for a few drinks and a turn at the faro tables. This bar, called the Senate in my heyday, was often the gathering place of my most respected citizens, Mackey, Twain, Hearst, Flood, Fair, and O'Brien, poker players all. But there were churches, too, the Catholic, for many Irish Catholics settled here, the Episcopal Church, and the Presbyterian. And there was a school, too, now in the process of renovation. The records of this school proudly display the names of many of the settlers who really built the West, for the history of the West was made by people, intrepid, strong, but very human people. Entertainment flourished in my city, too. This is but one of several opera houses wherein all of the great stars of the American and European stage appeared. Enrico Caruso sang here to an audience appropriately attired in dress clothes. And Madame Modjeska, Edwin Booth, and Lawrence Barrett, Maud Adams, Lily Langtry, and Buffalo Bill Cody also displayed their histrionic abilities here. Oh, and by the way, David Belasco was the stage manager here in the early days. Not all of the entertainment took place on the stage. Jack McNabb, a gunman, sighted Jay Howard, a mortal enemy, in a box directly across from him.
You dirty, sidewinding polecat! I'll get you now!
And Howard beat a hasty retreat, for he was unarmed. Ah, yes, those were spirited days. And whether the entertainment was staged, a drama, a singer, or a dogfight, or unstaged, as in the case of McNabb and Howard, the audience thoroughly enjoyed it. Silver habitually brings affluence, and so it was with my people in Virginia City. This is the historic Shoya Mansion, sometimes called the Collar, home of the superintendent of the rich Shoyar mines and himself many times a millionaire. The Chinese influence was strong here, as there were more than 2,000 Chinese living in Virginia City. Note the beautiful teakwood hand-carved furniture, the jade, the ivory, and porcelain, treasures to rival those of even Versailles. In this drawing room, too, one finds pieces of great value. This antique piano, which was shipped here from Baltimore all the way around the Horn. These marvelous oriental chests inlaid with mother-of-pearl. The hand-carved teakwood screen and the beautiful rugs. But it is in the dining room that one sees the lavish hand of true opulence. This solid silver service is truly unique, worth a king's ransom, and this silver figurine, which weighs 22 pounds, is mounted on solid gold. And the dishware, Haviland, Wedgwood, Meissen and Delft, and 1770 pewter. Yes, indeed, my rich citizens knew how to live. And in this vault, deep within the mansion, silver and gold bars and mine records were kept, fireproof and burglar-proof. Oh, to be let loose in there in the good old days, eh? An interesting story occurred in this, the King Mansion, another of Virginia City's showplaces. It seems that one evening, along about midnight, the chief of police and an assistant came to the door and...
What's the meaning of this, Chief? Why disturb my house at this hour?
I'm sorry, Mr. King, but we got word that a Chinese girl, Nang, who's the property of a certain rich Chinese merchant, has been hidden here by her lover.
In the name of heaven, man, what do I know about Chinese concubines? Go around to the servants' entrance and let a man get his sleep.
And it was true that a Chinese concubine was hidden in the house. A young Chinese he-hawk had met and fallen in love with this concubine and spirited her away to this house where his cousin was the cook. The chief of police found the girl and returned her to the rich merchant, only to have her stolen again by her lover. And again, the police found her, and together with her lover, they were put in jail. Here they were married, Nang and he-hawk, and the rich merchant had to relinquish his claim on the concubine. For President Abraham Lincoln had just put through the anti-slavery bill, and little Nang was delivered out of concubinage, the first test of the new law in Virginia City. Possibly the most memorable citizen of my city was one whom the respectable women of the town frowned upon. Her name, Julia Bulette, Jewel of the Comstock, a prostitute and a very great human being. This may not be an authentic photograph of Julia, but it is purported to be her likeness, and it is all that remains of her. Mark Twain, a close friend of Julia Bulette, said of her,
She is admired and esteemed by all who know her. She has nursed the miners through illness, fire, and flood, has saved many lives, and is kind and charitable beyond belief. I say 3 cheers for Jewel of the Comstock.
Julia Bulette was murdered by a man for her money and jewelry on January 19th, 1867. She had been friend and confidant of every important man on the Comstock. And in her funeral procession, the fire department, police department, miners, and prominent citizens all marched with uncovered heads and tear-filled eyes, while the band played The Girl I Left Behind Me. That was Jewel of the Comstock, perhaps the best symbol, after all, of the frenetic history of Virginia City. This has been a story, true in every detail, of an important time and place in the history of the United States. Virginia City, Nevada was unique, and while it began and ended as a tiny, remote little town, it did have an enormous impact on America and even the world. As stated before, the treasures from the earth at Virginia City financed much of the Civil War, built the city of San Francisco, and started such empires as the Postal Telegraph Company and the Hearst newspaper chain, as well as many others. We thought this story to be one worth the telling, and we hope that you will return and be with us again next week, when again the story of some famous or infamous time or place will be revealed on If These Walls Could Speak. Thank you, and goodbye.